Yes. So we are live. Hello all. Welcome to Nomam YouTube channel. Today we have a special guest speaker, Mr. Abhishek Gaurav, who will be sharing his insights onto DevOps. With over a decade of experience in the field, Abhishek is a seasoned professional and a true thought leader in the DevOps community. Throughout his career, Abhishek has been dedicated to improving the processes and techniques of DevOps, and he has made a significant impact in this area while he was working with well known organizations like Hotstar and MPL. Currently, he is working with Drishti as a director of cloud infra. So, today, Abhishek will be sharing his expertise on the latest trends and best practices in DevOps. And also, he'll be answering all your queries about the exciting and rapidly evolving field which is DevOps. So, sit back, relax, and get ready to learn from one of the best in the business. So, without any further delay, please join me in welcoming Abhishek Gaurav to the Nomam YouTube channel. Abhishek, the stage is yours now.
Yeah,
So,
thanks, Koti. Yeah, thanks for the brief introduction. I think you have covered it all. Hi, everyone. As Koti has already introduced me, I'm Abhishek, and I am working as a director of DevSecOps and cloud infrastructure at Drishti. To tell you more about me, is I have done my BTech from ICFI. I don't know how many of you know about this college. I mean, I've done ICFI, I mean BTech from ICFI in computer science, and then I started my career as a Python developer. And because of the Python, and this is what drove me into this DevOps. And again, if I'll get into more details of the DevOps and talk more about how to see your career growth and how being a developer is helping me now at this stage, that anyway we'll discuss in the later part of the discussion. But yes, I started my career as a Python developer, and because of Python, I don't know how many of you know about the OpenStack. It was developed in Python, so I got into OpenStack development. I have contributed into OpenStack, not with my individual identity, but yes, at that time I was working with some company, HP, and HP was contributing to the OpenStack, and I was contributing through HP. And OpenStack, then it drove me to cloud world, and now the complete DevOps Dockerization, and this is what I'm doing. Generally, I join a company, and then I start with learning about the company, and this is what the best phase is when we call about DevOps as a culture. You first need to understand the culture of the company. Each and every situation is different from the previous one, so we need to understand the culture because we need to change the culture. So yeah,
Uh,
that's about me.
yeah, yeah, Abhishek. So yes, you talked about this culture and these things, right? So like, can you explain us like what DevOps is exactly and how it differs from the traditional approaches which we are following in every organization? Like you named it, each and every organization will have a different culture and practices that they'll follow. But when DevOps came into picture, what kind of change that is brought into the industry and workplace? How exactly, like what exactly DevOps and what is the cultural change that is bringing in?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I mean, everybody talks about DevOps is a culture, but they don't know. Okay, what culture is this? Because the definition of the DevOps and the culture varies from one situation to another, and we as a DevOps need to change. But yeah, let's understand why there was a need of DevOps, how things was happening before even there was a DevOps word existence. So if I remember, when I was working for a company in 2010, and if you see the software development life cycle, how it was happening is me as a developer was writing a code, and I did not know how the code is going to run in the production. So and there was no agile even that time. I mean, there was, but not everybody was following. So I was just my only goal is to write a code, like write a function which just does its job, commit anywhere, keep my things in a folder, and then there was a different team who will take my code and do deploy in one of the environment called maybe QA will do the testing, and if they will raise a bug, they don't know whom to approach. And then finally, on the deployment, there will some deployment note. I mean, I remember writing those release note and deployment notes. So we always have to pass a file with the instruction how to deploy this code into the production. But I remember most of the time it was failing whenever somebody is going and deploying the production, because the things was completely different in the production than my dev environment, and that's where the real challenge was. So as a business, how it was impacting me as a business, I have promised my user, hey, I will give you this feature in maybe within a month. And that's when I start earning some money because of that feature. Because of all these delays and the silos between team, nobody was sure when the feature is going to deliver. That was one problem. I mean, faster feature delivery. I mean, and then breaking the silos between one team. You remember, I mean, dev and QA was a complete rival to each other, and they were fighting like cats and dogs. And
Yeah.
and in the production, if something is break, everybody is started panicking, and everybody was starting debugging, but they did not involve developer to debug the code. So
Developers all the time they'll come with a standard line. It works on my machine. It is not working on your machine. So that is
yeah.
the standard line for a very long time before DevOps.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
So that's how it used to go. I mean, we did not know, there was no predictability in the system, which is really important for any business to sustain. No matter it's a tech business or any business, I mean, the predictability is the key. You need to predict the business. For example, now the layoff season is going on because many of the company has not predicted this well, or now maybe we are predicting the future it's going to be worse, and then we are taking the decision, collective decision. But the predictability is always important. That's
Yeah, right,
the-
Abhishek. In continuation to that, sorry to interrupt. So you're talking about this, predictions and the systematic change which we need to follow those things. But when it related to DevOps and all, right? So what exactly like the best approach? See, DevOps means it's a as you mentioned, it is a complete cultural shift over from the traditional whatever the agile or any model which you are following. From there it's a complete transition. So what might be the best approach to get the efficient results? Like if I don't have any proper plan to do this, and if I directly all are telling DevOps, I also say DevOps, and I don't know tomorrow what will happen. So for that, like what will be the best approach for an organization, for an individual to get into it?
Mm. To yeah, I mean, why the again question is very simplified. Why we need to do DevOps? How it is benefiting me? I mean, there has to be some return on investment. There are some KPIs, and why DevOps is, the two things. One is faster feature delivery. Second, reducing the bug density in my production, and third, the uptime of my system. For example, if I am able to roll out a feature in the production in maybe 1 month, and I have to do it in maybe 1 week, I need DevOps. If my deployment into the production is every time my average 1 month bug in the production found bug is like 10, I want to reduce it to 2, I need DevOps. If uptime, and generally in our technical terms we talks in nines, like double nine, triple nine, four nines. If I want to improve the uptime of my production system, I need DevOps. If any of this, think about it, like if I am, my uptime of my services is not triple nine but double nine, like every month maybe I'm having 1 hour of outages, how big impact on the business this would be in the revenue. In my previous company, I won't take name, but a few of the company, 1 second of the downtime was causing millions of dollars in the revenue. So it's a huge impact. Second impact, huge impact about the bugs, and again bugs will relate to your uptime. The third is like faster feature delivery. If my rival, I want to make a game. For example, I want to make a game and I want to launch into the business, but my rival is making and launching that game before I have launched. The impact on my business. So it's a huge. Coming to the culture, I mean, how the cultural shift, like, when I was talking about, we were giving the release note to the release manager, or the operational guy. The shift is now each and every, and now we started talking about the full stack developer. The bridge between all those teams, which were like, that time one hand doesn't know what the second is doing, and there was a silos between all the teams. And now with the culture, we're shifting this to the developer, like each and everybody knows exactly what is going on throughout software development life cycle. For example, me as a developer, now I control my, not just the build, and I have that in my hand right now. Let it be, if you're doing the CI/CD, my CD, even if it is Jenkins file or GitHub Actions, all the files belong to the developer. They have to edit those changes. The deployment, I mean the system, the complete system, because it is Dockerized, the Docker file also belongs to the repository and responsibility of the developers, where they can configure the system which is going to run in the production. And finally, the uptime, the observability stack, that is also to some extent now responsible to the developer. So we are thinking about now shift left. The more you shift left, the early you catch the problems, and the higher your success rate would be.
Okay, great, great. So, in continuation with this, like whenever, like I spoke with couple of my juniors or whoever in the industry, seniors, juniors, whoever it may be. So, if they want to switch their careers from the existing domain to this DevOps domain, so whatever may be the reason, now people are buzzing towards this DevOps. Everybody want DevOps job and all. So whenever they started they're just looking into what DevOps is and how these things are working and all. So they're getting scared of what is it, after listening to so many number of tools. So each and every phase, so DevOps is a the stack bundled with lots and lots of tools. So they're getting scared, like, okay, these many tools, like if you talked about full stack development or front end back end development, we have two to three technologies roughly. So if you learn that, like our life is easier. Whereas when they're thinking about DevOps and all, there are lots and lots of tools which are coming out. So do we really need those many tools, or like what is the approach to learn these tools? What is the best approach to get this best of it? If somebody want to get into DevOps ecosystem.
Yeah, so to get into the DevOps, the best approach is to learn and get into the situation. And when I started with my introduction, I told you, like, I started my career as a Python developer. That helped me a lot. Now think about a situation. The DevOps is going to convince developer not to just write their business logic, but own the CI/CD pipeline and the system as well. You keep yourself in the shoes of developer. They will say, okay, why should I do that? Like, my just job is to write a function, and who is going to teach me all of it? I mean, that's none of my business. I mean, hire an operation guy who will do it, or maybe you guys at DevOps, you start doing it. But that is not a culture what we want to drive, because then again it will create so many teams and the silos between teams. So you are solving a problem for the developer. The problem for the developer is they are not writing efficient code, so somebody has to give him continuous and early feedback. Then you want to solve a problem for the operation, because operation guy doesn't know what to put and how to solve, how to debug in the operational issue, how to make the uptime, the services more reliable. If you want to solve these problems, you need to understand the problem. You need to be one of them, and then only you can go and convince. I mean, if, for example, let's suppose Sachin Tendulkar is a really good in cricket and batting. What if you give him a job to convince me as a techie to shift from Java to Python? Will he be able to do it? No. So that's where you start your career as a developer because that's where the main core thing is. And when I see as a DevOps, they are architects. Almost everybody I know, all the good DevOps, they are an architect because they contribute into architectural changes of all the DevOps. So until unless you know the development, you won't be able to do that. Like you lose the respect. And if you lose the respect, you won't be able to convince. If you won't be able to convince, people won't change, and the cultural shift won't happen. So operation is a bit easy. That's where the automation comes into play. I mean, you can keep all the tools and automation to automate many of the operation. And now you see that there are no more build and release guy. There are no more the operation guy. Those all are automated or replaced by the SRE or platform engineer, whatever. But the developer, I mean, you cannot replace developer, right? I mean, I don't know how the chat GTP is going to do. So you need
Yeah.
to be one of them. So as a fresher, I would always encourage people to start your career with the development. Understand, be a part of the party, and then with your interest, it's not like because it's a booming, it's a highest paid market, then that's why you want to be one of the DevOps guy. No, it should not be that, because you are interested in that area because of so many reasons. I'll tell you my reason. That's why you need to be in DevOps. So start your career as a developer and then groom yourself to be a DevOps. That will be the good and ideal approach to become a really good DevOps guy.
Yeah, I agree, and that is where, right? Like exactly, I'll phrase it my question again. So previously, when I'm into development, when I'm a Python developer or something, basically, for example, say backend developer, I'll use Python and Django. If you need, I'll go to 1DB SQL or any non-relational database. So my job will be like I will be dealing with three or four technologies the most. Whereas like when we talk about DevOps, right, there will be like minimum 10, 12 tools. Do we need to be master in all these 10 more than 10 tools, or how things will work here?
No, mastering a specific tool is not needed. I mean, not at all. Even mastering one language won't be needed, I would say. Um, in DevOps, the things, are drastically changing every day. There are always a new tools and technology to do the job better. So if you're stick with one tool, you're not going to efficiently solve the problem. But what you need to know is the problem, the defining the problem, and what you need to do. For example, just an example, CI/CD. Talk about CI/CD. There are so many tools involved in the CI/CD process. Even in the CI, there are so many phases of the CI. The build tools are different. The static code analysis tool are different. For the deployment tools are different. Uh, let's suppose like you know cloud formation, and you only know cloud formation, and you're master of cloud formation, and this is what you know. Going to the different strategy as a business, I shifted my thought process. I want to do multi-cloud. Cloud formation only works with the AWS and not with all the clouds. Now because you're just a cloud formation guy and you don't want to shift, you don't want to change, you won't be able to survive there. But if you know Terraform, which works in all the clouds, you're open and you change your tool to meet the organization goal. That is the best interest of the organization, your team, and for everyone. So that's why I don't see being a tool specific. Tool is not important, but the concept is important. For example, I want to achieve CI/CD. That is a core concept. No matter for the CI, I'm using Jenkins or I'm using GitLab CI or I'm using GitHub CI. For example, my last previous company was using Jenkins. My current company is using GitHub. Doesn't mean I just go and ask my current company to get away from the GitHub and go to Jenkins until unless there is a very very serious use case which I can convince. Otherwise, tool doesn't matter. My CI is matter. My company, the culture and all the tech keys, they are if comfortable with the Jenkins or the GitHub. Changing from one tool to another again is a very steep learning curve, which it's really difficult. So why don't so CI/CD is what I need, no matter it is Jenkins, Circle CI, GitHub. Deployment, continuous deployment is my concept. No matter it is harness, no matter it is like a shell script is doing the job. I mean, shell script anyway is a bad idea, but just for the argument's sake. So no, getting a expert on a tool is not something what is a DevOps we need to focus on. There should not be any vendor locking, and because all this from each other, and we need to find a solution, which one tool cannot do.
So basically, we need to understand the core concept, like why we need this particular tool, what is the functionality of this tool. So if we get that, like whatever may be the tool, we can adopt it quickly. Is what you are telling? Yeah.
Yeah,
So
exactly. Exactly. So we need
yes.
to do with this core concepts. We need to continue with the core concept. Then we need to analyze the situation. As I said, each and every situation, company, even the project within a company, their ask is different. If you will be stubborn with your tools and technology, definitely you are not going to survive and nobody is going to respect. So you should be flexible with your tools and technology. It should depend on the situation, and you should choose the tools and technology according to the situation. You should not change your situation according to the tool. I mean, that is a wrong way of doing DevOps.
Okay, okay. So I have one question, like which is coming, multiple ways, multiple times. I came across this question. So somebody, like one person, he want to start with the DevOps. So whenever he heard about DevOps and based on their whatever the basic research they had done, so they might have come across like pure DevOps and AWS DevOps, Azure DevOps. Like these three are the very popular options which they are coming across. So like nowadays, like everybody is talking about multi-cloud environment. Like previously also you have mentioned, like when about Terraform, when you are mentioning about Terraform and all. So those are the nowadays, like if you stick to one cloud formation or one another technology, but technology is moving into multi-cloud and all. So as a learner, a student, college student, if they want to start learning, so what they need to choose, and if they want to stick to one particular cloud or one particular, whether it is plain DevOps or Azure DevOps or AWS DevOps, what might be the factors which will have a huge impact for selecting the stack and through their journey.
I mean, for the freshers and especially for the college graduate, I would say again, as I said, do not stick with one particular stuff. Like you want to be Azure DevOps. Azure DevOps is again a tool. I mean, to support Azure ecosystem. AWS DevOps is again all the AWS services which AWS provide, and do the DevOps there using that tool. Again, as I said, if you'll become Azure DevOps expert, and there's so many openings in the GCP and AWS world, you won't be a fit there. So that's why, as a fresher, I would say, see, your focus would be to learning the system, the deeply understanding the system. Even though for the fresher, when I was a fresher, I was thinking like, those concept what I was learning, like core Linux concept. I thought, okay, what will be the practical use of it? But later on, you'll realize that is really needed. So understand the system. Start your day-to-day activity with the Linux command line. Not going with the UI, easy stuff. When you're going with the UI, definitely and it's objective and subjective. Many people can argue that, but this is my personal thing is get more inside the system than being, if you're doing the UI, you are becoming part of the user for which we are creating solution. If you go inside and start automating with the CLI, you the Linux, and start asking all the questions, you will become a part of the league who creates a solution using this system. Do not stick with one, but for example, if you are a student and AWS is giving you like $1,000 credit, why not AWS? And that will become your playground where you'll start learning your and start practicing your stuff. That doesn't mean you are sticking with AWS, but yes, that is very important that you do your hands-on and practice make a man perfect. And I see this is a very common mistake is what all many freshers does. Okay, Abhishek, tell me about like what should I learn to become a DevOps? I said, okay, learn about cloud, learn about CI/CD, learn about Docker, learn about Docker. And what they do, they Google, they read some blogs, and they say, okay, now I am a Docker guy. No, that is not. I mean, get your hands dirty, do the repetitive practice until you are doing the practice and at least finding 100 questions by yourself, which again you're finding the answer for. You are not learning. I mean, reading the blog is not going to help. So as a fresher, I would say learn and practice, 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 practice. Don't be stick with your resources. Don't be stick with, I want to learn Azure DevOps, but I do not have Azure credit. How should I learn? I mean, no, why Azure? I mean, you can create a Docker, you can create all those stuff in your laptop, in your personal laptop. You'll get a free credit from the AWS. If AWS is providing you credit, GCP is providing credit, go ahead and do it. I mean, don't be stick with one particular thing, but practice, practice a lot.
Okay, okay. Here comes my next question, Abhishek. Like, we talked about this adoption and how we need to stick to some approaches to learn and succeed in this one. But in terms of organization, right? Like, imagine you're running a startup. So to adapt, these kind of DevOps kind of heavy things and all, what might be the challenges that they may face?
Mm. The challenges is adoption, and especially because you mentioned the startup, I will tell you one startup story. Is the startup, the main goal for a startup, and which is true from the business point, is a fast based development, feature development. Forget about automation, forget about the money we are spending on the cloud, forget about all of the stuff for now. The focus is, release faster and acquire the user faster. That is the primary approach. Now at some point of time they will start facing problem because the code what they are releasing is buggy and user are getting frustrated. They are spending tons of money on maintaining infrastructure because they did not think about those stuff in the early stage. They got funding and they just have money, so they are spending. Now at some point of time they definitely they got to know about, okay, now I need DevOps to control all this thing. Otherwise my user are going because those things are really buggy and not sustainable. If you go to that market, the main challenge is to convincing people for this cultural change. Now again, as I said, I ask people, okay, they are writing and they're committing into the Git repository, and I just need to ask, okay, see, you cannot just write a function, you also need to start writing unit test cases. That is your responsibility. Think about a developer. I mean, they will start backing like anything. Okay, no, I don't want, this is not my responsibility, I don't want to write. But that is from the cultural perspective, they say, right. If I ask them, okay, start learning and do the Docker and start owning the Docker file. So convincing people, this is what really big challenge when you want to do a cultural shift. So when I say cultural shift, okay, this is not just a DevOps. If for example you want to do a cultural shift in your organization, forget about DevOps, but culture shift like going from unlimited leave to limited leave, for example, or going from office to or maybe working from home to office. That is a cultural change in the organization. Now if you see how difficult it is for the company to convince people, okay, now come to office and work from home is over, people do not accept it easily. Exactly, this is a cultural changes what I have to go through when I talk about DevOps cultural changes. People are not they it's not easy to change people mindset. That is a really bigger challenge. Otherwise I think, and we as a DevOps, that's why it's a centralized team and we work really with collaborative manner with all the bigger stakeholder. And that's when we are in a position to change culture. Otherwise, it's really difficult for for anybody to do that. So that is the biggest challenge in any of the company.
Yes. So one of the major thing, when we talk about DevOps, right? Like everybody is talking about security and the impact that is going to be create on our entire system. So what exactly, what will be the some base on a 10,000 feet view. So if I want to bring this cultural change into my organization, so what will be the basic things I need to be very good at to maintain that security and all, like how exactly I can manage this?
Security is always go best with the shift left. When we talk about security, we talk about shift left. Shift left, again, shift left is the first person who is creating those security loophole, and those are developers. And finally, anyway, in the operation there are so many other security aspects as well, but the vulnerability is created starting with the developer. If developer will know that okay, the code they are writing is vulnerable, the changes they can do in the code, it will have a huge impact in the production. I mean, I recently was reading a book called Code Complete. I will highly recommend everybody should read, no matter in what position and what role they are playing in, and it has a really nice view on how this will impact when you make a decision in certain point of software development life cycle. For example, if you're making a decision in your architectural or decision making, it's really easy. When you have to change something, when you're deploying it to the production, the cost of that change is so high. I mean, monetarily high, and also in execution wise it's high. So that's why we need to catch and do the early feedback. Now the security, because I have worked with the security, I started my career. So I was writing Python code to find the vulnerability in the connected system. I have also, in one of my organization, has controlled the PCI infrastructure. PCI is like, because we have to save the credit card information, we need to be PCI compliant. And now in my current organization, I was responsible for cloud security, and we just gone through the audit of ISO 27701. So security is with the automation. uh, how we can take care of the security is always think security first approach. uh, how can we say security first approach is whenever you are making a decision, when you are making an architectural, you think about what all access and authorization it can have, what all firewall rules we can have, and how can we introduce vulnerability and can mitigate it or even patch. For example, when I join and I have to go through ISO 2001 audit, I need to find all the vulnerability into the running system. And okay, with many tools I can find, but what can I do with just finding? I need to fix it, and I am not the person who can fix it. So I started uh, changing my CI/CD. I introduced my vulnerability scanning system in my CI. So whenever there is a vulnerability, my CI will break. It will give the early feedback to the developer. They will get notified. Okay, this is the vulnerability with the description. Okay, because you have used this library, and if you can upgrade this library from 1.2 to 1.3, it will resolve this vulnerability. With all this description, I'm giving back to the developer. Now, because their CI failed, there is no build, they will definitely do this new commit with the changes, and there is no vulnerability. So one part of the vulnerability system I have changed. And then with the compliances, ISO 2000 27001 or PCI or whatever the compliance SOC, there's so many HIPAA. With the compliances, if you start uh, reading upon, they are exactly completely written one by one with the pointer rule, like you should do this, you should do this. If you follow this, definitely you will be in a better position in terms of security. If you are not, how it can impact, I'll tell you. You must have heard about the many stories, like there was a data leak of one of the organization, and it has impacted and can bring down, I mean, the organization has to go and file for the bankruptcy. That kind of huge impact a small security loophole can have. We just have seen our IAM was hacked, and there was a ransomware. So when we think about, and especially for the startup, we don't think about security because we think it's just a expenditure. There is no return of investment until the day comes. That's what. So we should not think about security as a overburden, or something we are spending without return of investment. It's just a continuous approach where we always have to be on top of something preventive action, where if you fail, Just like 99% of the time we succeed, if we fail just one, it can damage a complete organization.
Very true, very true. So with that, like in our conversation, you have mentioned about ChatGPT and the no the latest no technological innovations which are coming very fast. So whenever like what is any emerging technology which is coming in, how kind of impact that will create on the industry and especially in DevOps, right? So can you explain us about that,
Yeah, so Chat GTP is still relatively very new, and people are still discovering what it is capable of and what all it can do. What I see is happening in the industry currently with the Chat GTP is now, instead of just Googling or instead of going to Stack Overflow and finding the solution, people started using Chat GTP even to write their code to find a solution and all. So in that way, it's really helpful. I mean, I have used myself. I mean, I was not getting those answers in the Googles, even in the Stack Overflow, but I was really amazed how accurate the answer was from the Chat GTP, even with the different approaches. I mean, I was really impressed. So it's really early to say how it's going to change, but the future is going to be mostly on the AI/ML side. Like the artificial intelligence is going to change a lot, not just the DevOps, like the complete each and every field. For example, I see now students are asking ChatGTP to write a essay for them or do the class homework for them, and that's another use case of ChatGTP. I don't know if it is in the positive direction or the negative direction, but this is what is going to happen. So still, as a debate, as Elon Musk said, the artificial intelligence, as we say, it can be very beneficial, but also can be very dangerous in the future. So how it going to impact? I'll tell you. I still, at the time of Hotstar, I was thinking one of the auto scaling is a very, very simple example. I was thinking about, okay, auto scaling, everybody know in the DevOps field. Whenever there is a more load, we scale our infrastructure to support that load. The auto scaling, many of the cloud, including AWS, has the matrices on which we can put the auto scaling in. So when the threshold, I mean, for example, if CPU is going beyond 60%, add one more instance there, so it will automatically auto scale. You don't have to make a extra effort to do that. Exactly, if CPU is going below 50%, remove one instance from the group. So that is auto scaling. But is that enough? For example, for the company like MPL or for a company like Hotstar, whenever we have a steep increase in the traffic, whenever the IPL happens, when the IPL start from the 1,000 user to 1 lakh user in a fraction of seconds, this kind of auto scaling cannot solve that kind of problem. For that, we need some kind of AI ML technique, which we do not have that time. And I think that's where the maybe Chat GTP, or I don't know how other AI ML can be beneficial, but I'm counting on AI ML to solve this kind of problem. What we had to do is there manually is pre-warm our services before the match start. 1 hour before the match starts, we already scale all our system manually to meet that the big
yeah.
volume. That's why we could survive the at the time. Otherwise, auto scaling couldn't. So if some kind of Chat GTP, the AI version, can take care of these kind of decisions, and help automate the stuff, because in DevOps we automate whenever. So any manual intervention is a problem to the system. So we want to automate everything. If ChatGTP or tools like ChatGTP can help us automate those corner cases which we are not able to do right now, will be a really huge impact in the DevOps and complete IT sector. In non-IT sector, again, there's so much again ChatGTP can do, but AI/ML as a technology is going to play a really big impact in our future generation, which I'm sure of.
Okay, very true, very true. So one of the common question, like many students are asking Abhishek, I just wanted to get answer from you in this. So like they completed their graduation or something, and they're into different domains, and all. Now they wanted to get into DevOps. So their approach should be like, where can I learn DevOps? Like I need to go to institutions, or I need to go to some online trainings or something. What will be the approach to get the best of it? So they're asking, many people are asking me this question.
Hmm. Yeah, definitely. That is a question. I also see many people asking me even in LinkedIn. Uh, what I suggest is, there are always two approaches. You There's plenty of information in the internet which you can consume, but without a direction is something, and that's why we always attend classes, colleges, and school, because we need a guru. We need
Yes.
somebody who can train us, guide us, and then teach us. Even though all the information is already there in the book, but we do not go ahead and read those book. I mean, we are anyway lazy. So I also suggest people, you divide things into different phases, and you start reading from there. For example, as a fresher, the Linux is always part of your curriculum. The C++ coding language is a part of your curriculum. I don't know, many of the institution are also bringing cloud computing as a part of curriculum. So focus on this, focus on the Linux part, and focus on the programming languages. Do yourself, and then bit of cloud, if you can do. Um, that is one. If you know yourself, you're capable enough on doing your self learning. If not, find. I mean, there's so many institute and so many people who are teaching. Even I see, you do not even have to spend any penny, and there's so many courses available on YouTube which you can subscribe and learn from them. But the only important, and I'll emphasize it again, whenever you learn from any of these courses, practice at least 100 times. If you're not practicing, and only listening to the YouTube channel, it is not going to benefit you at all. Even if you're reading in your college the Unix, but you're not practicing in your lab, then those books or those teachers or professor are not going to help you anyway. So practice, that is a key. So yeah, if you can spend time, you can spend money, join any of the course, see who covers all the aspect of the DevOps, starting from the development, architects, automation, the infra bit, the CI/CD, and the observability stack. They cover it all. Join Docker. Now it's an emerging technology. So yeah, learn about the Docker and Kubernetes as well. If they are covering this curricula, go ahead, do it, practice. If not, there are so many things on YouTube, internet. Read and then practice. You have a doubt, there are many people in the internet you can follow. Even you can ask me on the LinkedIn. If you have those doubt, we are always here to help. We can answer your queries, and then you can self learn. So yeah, that is how you can be a DevOps guy as a fresher.
Yeah, to just add with this, right? Like I saw a lot of people who are, posting as you as their mentor, like lot of pages which are highlighting and mentioning, like, okay, so Abhishek is a nice guy to get a quick response, and get our problems resolved and all. So for the audience sake, right, what I'll do, I'll tag your profile in this video description. Whoever the visitors, they can come and make a LinkedIn connection with you, and they can try to reach out to you if they have any queries. With that, like, no, I just wanted to thank you heartfully, Abhishek, for your valuable time. I know you're very busy in your tight schedule. Also, like, have given me a slot for me and all our viewers. Thank you so much for that. And I hope, yes, we'll be having some more sessions in the coming days with the advanced and some sort of demos or the sort of things. I'll be reaching out to you again.
Yeah, I mean, for the next session, definitely this is a very generic tech talk about that DevOps. And definitely I'll ask all the audience to comment and vote. If you need us to talk on some specific topic, for example, CI or CD, a complete CI/CD infrastructure, AWS, GCP, observability stack. Also in the observability, only logging, monitoring. distributed tracing, rum. If anything, maybe we can create a vote, and somebody wants to go more deep tech talk about those particular topic, the Docker, the Kubernetes. Definitely we can. I'm really happy to share my knowledge, because when we share our knowledge, it always increases. So I'm always happy to be on your channel, talk more about some technical. And thanks for giving me opportunity to give my overview on the DevOps. I would again ask all the audience to if you face any problem, reach out to me. Yes, and post your comments, and let us know what else we can talk, which particular technology we can go deep into and start explaining to you, which will be helpful for you guys.
Exactly, exactly. I'm completely in line with what you said, Abhishek. So yeah, I hope our audience like this video. Thank you so much once again for you and for the wonderful audience we had. Thank you so much, Abhishek.
Thank you, everyone.
Yes.
Bye bye.